Today I'm going to work on debunking one of the myths that I hear a lot here in Honolulu, and that's this idea that our children, our young people, can't get a house here. I'm going to stipulate it is more difficult than, say, Huntsville, Alabama to get a house, but it doesn't serve us to have that conversation. And not only am I going to debunk it, but I'm going to give you 3 keys, or what I call the 3 C's, of how a parent can help their child get into their home. Now, if you stick around, I'm going to give you a bonus tip at the end that I think is creative and may be available to some of you to help your children. But before I jump into the 3 C's, my name is Keahi Palaio. I'm a real estate broker here in Honolulu, Hawaii. I've been full-time in the business since 1983. And I share that with you because it should help you have some context for my background and the experience that I bring to the game in helping you make decisions on real estate. With that introduction, let's jump into the 3 C's. The first C is cash. Many young people will qualify for the financing, but they don't have the cash down payment. And this is where parents come in. You can gift them the cash to buy their house. And there are basically 3 easy ways you can give it to them. If you have it in the bank, you go to your bank and you take the cash out of the bank and you give it to your kids. You're going to be required to give a gift letter in all instances, but you can just give them the cash if you've got it. If you don't have the cash, then you can get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on your house, and then use that capital as the down payment. Now, the bank is not going to want your child to make the monthly payment on that, but I know in instances where the child is actually making the payment, and in most instances, they are. The third tool that you have at your disposal is to cross-collateralize the loan. Now, this is creative. So let's say you found a house that your daughter wants, and you have your house, but you don't want to take out a home equity line of credit. Some lenders will allow you to do what they call cross-collateralize. You put the loan on your daughter's property, and then they put a lien on your existing house. Now, this is creative, and be very, very clear that if your daughter fails to make that monthly payment, they're going to come after your house. So don't do this lightly, but it is a way that you can actually support your child in getting the house. The second C is what I call cosign. Many times, a young man will have the ability to make the monthly payment, but their credit, for whatever reason, is not good enough, or they don't have enough income to qualify. And then what a parent can do is put up their financials and their credit score, and that will push them over the finish line. Now, you are going to have to co-sign the loan, which means you're going to be on the hook for the loan if your son fails to make that monthly payment. But make that decision wisely, and in all the instances I'm aware of, the young man made the monthly payment, and it's a way for them to get started in the real estate business. Now, the third method of helping your child is really not so much helping them as much as if you're not comfortable giving them the money without some security, it's called co-ownership. And when you co-sign, you don't have to own the property, even though you're on the hook for the loan. But you can go in and become a tenant in common with your son or daughter, and you can take a percentage of ownership in the property with the understanding that when the property is sold, you'll be paid back. So those are the 3 C's: cash, co-sign, or co-ownership. Here's the bonus tip. I want you to write this down. Internal Revenue Code Section 1031 exchange. And before I jump into that, I want you to understand that anything I share with you here that involves taxes, you need to get a professional tax advisor's opinion on, especially with the 1031 exchange, because it is a creature of taxation, and most people qualify for it, and you want to make sure your tax person is on board with this. So I'm doubling down on that. Do not do this without your tax person's advice. With that said, let's talk about the IRC section 1031. And to make it easy on me, I'm just going to call it a 1031. All right? You own a rental property in Waikiki. You want to buy a house for your son or daughter. The challenge with selling the Waikiki property outright and then buying the house is that if that's a highly appreciated asset, you're going to owe capital gains on that sale. The 1031 exchange allows you to sell this property and move the money to this property. Now, here's the wrinkle. Your son or daughter cannot own that property. So I'm sure you're asking, well, why would they want to do this? Well, a couple of reasons. First, if they're renting, it allows them to rent from you, and you have an agreement ahead of time on how they're going to take ownership of the property in the future. And they can do that a couple of different ways. They can either do that upon your death, you give them the property and they get stepped up basis. And we'll talk about stepped up basis in another video in the future. Or number two, you could gift it to them over time. Now, again, seek tax advice on that because that's complicated. So the question is how do you have to rent to them? Because that's really important. The IRS, I am told, says you have to rent at a market rate. So you can't buy this $1.2 million house and then rent it to them at $1 a month. If that $1.2 million house should be rented at $3,500 to $4,500 a month, you're going to need to charge that to qualify for 1031. Find out what that is, do the market rent study, and then make sure you can substantiate that you're renting to your daughter at an appropriate market rate. So those are the points I want to make today. The 3 C's: cash, co-sign, or co-own, and then obviously there's the 1031. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you want to talk about a specific situation for you and your family, I'm happy to chat with you by phone and really get into the details of how we would make it work for you. My number is 808-398-3220, and you have a great day.